Franchise Secrets, Eric Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a ZOR, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. Hey, welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Eric here, and today I have a special episode for you. It's with Jason Redman. He's a former Navy SEAL, wrote a couple books. One of them is called Overcome, and he has an amazing story about overcoming amazing obstacles. And he's not your typical SEAL, and I say that in the nicest of ways, but he's not your typical SEAL. He did some things wrong, incorrectly, that nearly cost him being a SEAL, lost trust with his fellow SEALs, and really learned leadership through some of the things that he went through. And then worked his way back into the SEALs, gained their trust, and he was one of those guys that got just shot up really bad in war. And just how he overcame that. And it's an amazing story. I definitely recommend getting his books. But Jason's going to be talking to the Franchise Tribe Mastermind. And we had him in a few weeks ago talking about leadership, talking about adversity, talking about all those types of things. But I wanted to bring that out to everybody so you can get a sample of some of the leadership stuff that we do talk about inside the Franchise Tribe Mastermind. So I hope you enjoy the show. Speaking of growing my network, and we had Bryce on with Fit Body Boot Camp earlier, and that's really where I first met Jason, was at an event with our mutual friend Bedros Keuilian, and Jason was one of the keynotes there. And I'm like, this man's amazing. I'm like, Bedros, do you think you can introduce me to Jason and have him on my podcast and eventually, do some other things? And he's like, for sure, man. So Bedros made the text intro, got me in touch with Jason, and then I've just been, extremely impressed from the time I first heard him speak to just how he shows up and gives to the world. So I want to introduce you guys to Jason Redman, a SEAL, former SEAL, amazing story, honest to the core, doesn't hide the things in his past that he had to overcome, and just the mindset and the things that this man has experienced is absolutely amazing. So I asked him to come in here to wrap everything up for us as our final speaker. Jason, welcome to the tribe.
Eric, thanks, man. I appreciate you. How's my sound?
Your sound is great.
Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, guys. So what we were going to do, what I told Eric, is I will kind of give a quick overview of who I am and what I speak on, and then really open it up to a Q&A. I think that kind of works best, especially in these masterminds, instead of me sitting up here blabbing, you guys have questions and you guys want to know, and I'd be glad to answer those. So, what's my superpower and who am I? My superpower is I am super resilient and I get off the X. And that is really the heart and soul of everything I speak on. If any of you follow me or know me, or if you've read any of my books, the X is the point of attack. It's the point of the crisis. It's the point of adversity. It's the point of the knockdown. It's the pain point. It's the point that most people get stuck on in this life. And whether it is a physical ambush, whether it is a mental ambush, an emotional ambush, a financial ambush, everybody in life gets on the X. And so many people get sucked down onto it. And myself included, I have before. But what I'm really good at is getting off the X as quickly as possible. And that's really what I've built everything around. Who is Jason Redman? I am a 47-year-old retired Navy SEAL. I did 21 years as a SEAL. What makes my story unique is I am not the greatest thing I hear when people read my books is, wow, that wasn't what I expected. And the reason is because I think when most people read a SEAL book, they expect to see this book that's like, hey, I'm Achilles and I'm the greatest warrior in the face of the world. And I'm the greatest leader in the history of all leaders. And I mean, that's how some of these SEAL books are. And I love all my teammates, but I know them, I worked with them, and they weren't quite as perfect as some of their books make them out to be. I failed as a leader at a very high level. I almost got myself kicked out of the SEAL teams because of ego and arrogance and immaturity as a young leader. And I managed to come back after the SEAL team said, let's kick this guy out, or at least some of my teammates said, let's kick this guy out. He's dangerous. Thankfully, I had some leaders that believed in me who said, hey, man, this kid's got a lot of potential. We just need to humble him. And that led me down a path on a journey of leadership. So, oftentimes I get brought into companies to speak on leadership and they will say, oh, Jason Redman's a leadership expert. And I quickly correct them and say, no, I am a student of leadership on a journey that never ends. But I will say I'm uniquely qualified to speak on leadership because I've seen a lot of leaders, good and bad. At one point, I was a bad leader. And I had to walk this almost impossible path of earning back the trust and credibility of my teammates after failing at a pretty high level, and many of them not trusting me to lead them. So that really was one of the hardest roads I've ever walked. And to be able to come back from that and to earn back the trust and respect within the SEAL teams with the guys that I work with is a pretty big deal. And one of the more respected SEAL leaders at my retirement ceremony said, Jason Redman's one of the few guys I know that screwed up at the level he did and has the level of respect he now commands in the community. So that was a real testament. And guys, it was a hard road, probably the hardest road I've ever walked. And I've been through quite a few major life ambushes at this point. After coming back from those leadership challenges, I got my career totally back on track. I was screening to go to our next tier SEAL team. I had checked all the boxes. I was in my next level of command. And 1 week before coming home on a combat deployment in Iraq, I got all shot up in a gunfight. I was shot 8 times between my body and body armor, including 2 rounds to my elbow, which almost effectively destroyed my elbow. They were originally talking about amputating my arm. And I took a round in the face, body armor, helmet, night vision goggles, weapon, all this stuff, which started a whole new road. It became the second life ambush I've been through. And 4 years, 40 surgeries, originally talking about amputating my arm, originally told, okay, you can keep your arm, but you'll never lift more than, 5 pounds with that arm or 50 pounds with that arm. And I've gone on to beat all those things. Once again, not an easy road, a lot of setbacks, a lot of problems, a lot of challenges. And even now, I still have things I struggle with my health, but I keep driving forward, man. I stay off that X, I keep grinding. And a lot of the principles that I teach on now are derived from both my leadership challenges and from the challenges coming, overcoming those injuries on the battlefield. Finished my military career, 21 years. I was wounded in my 15th year in the military. So I finished 6 additional years before I retired with 21 total years. I started out as an enlisted guy in E1, retired as a 03E lieutenant, and had started a nonprofit. I ran a nonprofit to support wounded warriors for 10 years. We grew that into a $3 million organization. And I tell you what, if you want to learn how to run a company and you want to learn about, all the challenges of being an entrepreneur, run a nonprofit. Because I tell you what, when I transitioned over to a for-profit, I was like, man, this is so much better. The level of scrutiny and challenges you have running a nonprofit, trying to constantly convince people to contribute money is such, guys, it was overwhelming. And I can't tell you how many times, not that running a for-profit company is not hard. We've had plenty of challenges in that, but I learned so much running our nonprofit. That's where I encountered our third life ambush. I'd gotten into a film project to raise money and awareness about Gold Star family members, and it went south between a couple of friends of mine. We did not have a contract. Hey, we're friends. We're in this together. I learned a valuable lesson in business. If money changes hands with anybody, you have a contract or a minimum memorandum of understanding, MOU or an MOA. Very valuable lesson because it was a very painful lesson to me. There was just egos, personality got in the way, and this project fell apart and turned into a nasty lawsuit where one of the guys accused me of fraud and collusion, which did not happen. But it just got ugly. Thankfully, that got dismissed. We provided all the paperwork that said that's just not true. But it hurt. This guy was smart. He was tactically smart when he launched that lawsuit. Before he ever launched it, he sent it to the newspaper. It was front page news. So talk about damage to your credibility, because unfortunately in this day and age, you're guilty until proven innocent in the world of social media and media. So that was another hard ambush. And how do we deal with it? We got off the X. We drove forward. We continued to execute on the things we did. And I motivated my team that, hey, this hasn't changed anything. Phased down that nonprofit and shifted my focus to helping other nonprofit organizations, and then to launch my speaking, coaching, and consulting company. And that's what I'm doing now. I've written 3 books. First one, The Trident, is a New York Times bestseller. Second one, Overcome, was an Amazon bestseller, and now the new Point Man Planner is also an Amazon bestseller. So, guys, that really is a very shotgun approach to who I am, what I speak on. At the end of the day, my focus is leadership, it's resilience, it's how we deal with the adversity that we encounter in this life. It's how you build an amazing overcome mindset. It's being grateful for every day you have. I meet so many people who take for granted the life they have, and they whine and complain. Hey, man, problems are just opportunity. That's all it is. It's an opportunity to get better. And if you have an overcome mindset, it doesn't mean they don't suck. Trust me, I've had plenty of times they suck. But if I wake up in the morning, it's a good day. It's a good day. It's a day that I have another day to put my feet on this earth and make a difference, and hopefully make some others better, hopefully make my family better, make myself better, and constantly be driving forward. So boom, there you go.
Boom.
That's me.
I love it. First of all, Caleb, can you please order me a shirt, No Bad Days, and you a shirt, and make sure we have his new book, because I have the other ones, but I don't have that in the links in the chat. So I look at that.
On all of our No Bad Days shirt, this is my skull, and it was actually drawn. I don't know if you guys can see this. It was drawn.
No
This
way.
is the acrylic model of my skull after I was shot. I don't know if you guys can see this, but all this was gone. I had turned, and a PKM machine gun bullet hit me right in front of the ear, traveled through my face, exited the right side of my nose, took off most of my nose, blew out my right cheekbone. It broke all the bones above my eye. It broke the head of my jaw. It shattered my jaw to my chin. And my buddy drew this skull from that acrylic, and then the bullet hole in the skull was actually in my helmet. So he actually took the liberty of drawing them together to make that picture. But every day I see it, man, it is about an overcome mindset. It is about thank God that you're still here, man. If you woke up, guess what? It's a gift. So many people have poor perspective. They whine, they complain. Oh my God, I had a bad day. You're still alive, bro. No bad days. Let's go.
When you said I had 8 bullets, like I knew the skull. I knew everything. I knew they weren't just like little bullets. I knew the damage that they caused because I know your story. And guys, like, read these books, listen to the stuff that the podcast that he's been on. Like, he just you said 8 bullets, but now we just went a little bit deeper. There are so many things that he said that has so much more depth to it. Can you do 2 things for me? Can you talk about the X? What is the X? And then I want to talk about your mindset when you were in the hospital and what you said to people, how you would not let certain people say things or do things when you were in the hospital.
Yeah, guys. So the X is any point of attack. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning. In my special operations career, I had learned on how to put the enemy on the X. I mean, that ultimately is the goal. We want to, in my SEAL career, it was our job to either surveil or watch the enemy for some specific purpose. It was to capture the enemy or kill the enemy. And there were a lot of different ways that we had to do that. But no matter what, we had to place them in a specific location to accomplish those things. And we called that location the X. So oftentimes, you may hear it in movies, hey, we're landing right on the X, which means you're landing right on the target. The flip side of that coin is if you are on the X, and that means you are now on the receiving end of whatever gunfire, ambush, sniper fire, whatever it is. And I had been fortunate in my life, in my military career, I'd been on the edge of gunfights in Afghanistan, and I'd been in quite a few gunfights, direct gunfights in Iraq, but never directly on the X like the night I was ambushed. My team and I walked into a very well executed ambush, and we estimate 15 shooters, 2 PKM machine guns. And guys, I want to tell you that I have never felt anything like that. I literally, I won't lie, for a few seconds, I literally wanted to stick my head in the sand and suck my thumb and just be like, please make the bad man go away. That's how bad it was. I mean, I had bullets going through my clothing. I could literally feel bullets going by. And it was so overwhelming. And why do I tell you that story? The reason I tell you that story is because everybody in life experiences that also. And some of you may say, well, there's no way, I can't relate to that. You're telling this story about being all shot up, but it's not true. I might have experienced the bullets and bombs from battle, but everybody experienced the bullets and bombs from life. And I oftentimes meet people who will say to me, well, Jay, my X is different from your X. Well, that's yes and no. I mean, the reality is, when we're on the X in this life, your body is going into fight or flight mode. And if I hooked you up to medical devices that measured your breathing and respirations and heart rate activity and brainwave activity in a major crisis in your life, it would be doing the same thing that mine was doing in that gunfight, because the brain doesn't go, oh, this is a gunfight. The brain goes, oh my God, this is a crisis. And I define the X by anything that will forever leave physical, mental, emotional, or deep financial scars on you, meaning you'll never fully recover from these scars on my face. They'll never heal. They're never going to go away. No different from, I see, the age, I'm looking at everybody in this group, and I would be willing to bet there's not a single person in this group that has not been through at least one major life ambush, something that you look back on that caused physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, or deep financial pain, or a combination of the four, or a combination of multiple, that when you look back on, it still hurts. When I think back on that firefight, it still hurts. When I think back on my leadership failure, that still hurts. When I think back on that lawsuit and from being front page news, being accused of something, it still hurts. But the difference between those who wither and die on the X, and maybe not physically, but I've watched a lot of people who mentally, emotionally, or financially die on the X, is how quickly you get off of it. Most people sit on the X and they do one of three things. Number one, they look back on what they lost. Oh, I want back the world before my business failed. I want back my relationship before my marriage failed. I want back before some major trauma happened in my life. Or they look forward and they say, well, it's not fair that this happened or that happened. This was supposed to be our best year yet. Man, our business was cranking, and then COVID came along. This was going to be our best year. For us, I think there were a lot of businesses in that place. 2019, we were on track to explode, man. And all of a sudden, or 2020, I mean, and all of a sudden, man, March of 2020, crash and burn, baby. Our accountant called me in June and was like, we've seen a 94% reduction in revenue because I lost all my speaking gigs. So, but instead of looking forward, which is what most people do, The third one that people do is they look down directly on the X. They focus on the pain, they focus on the misery, and then we do the age-old human thing of, well, let's find someone or something to blame. And we waste a lot of time at, well, it's his fault or her fault, or it's this staff member's fault, or it's my spouse's fault, or it's COVID's fault, or none of that matters. All that matters is having a mindset to get off the X as quickly as possible. No different from an ambush. If you're receiving bullets and bombs in battle, you have to get off the X as quickly as possible to get out of the kill zone. It's no different in life. The X is like quicksand. And the longer you sit on it, the more it pulls you down and the harder it is. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies, 100 companies. I work with Olympic athletes. I've worked with professional athletes, college athletes. The individuals who get off the fastest, who have a mindset that, hey, bad things are going to happen to good people. And when they do, I'm going to pivot and move as quickly as possible. They survive. They don't just survive, they thrive. They thrive. And that is truly a mindset. It's the essence of the overcome mindset. You got to build it within yourself. You got to build it within your team. In my book, Overcome, the entire first chapter or the entire first section of this book is about how to get off the X. And I teach something called the REACT methodology that you can utilize to get off the X in your life. So
Caleb just bought that book. I don't know what everything he bought, but I said, buy whatever you want and buy me everything else. So, yes. I have that other question, but I want to go to Dave first. Dave, why don't you come up and ask your question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, obviously with the Navy SEAL, I mean, you guys go through, I've seen some of the videos, just the mental toughness. I mean, they're trying to break you down and really work you over because you got to have that, like, that experience that you were describing. I mean, yeah, you're going to want to curl up in the ball and stick your thumb in your mouth and, cry for your mom. Right. So, the question is, how can us softies, right? How can we take, some of the things that you've learned? What are just daily things that we could do to just change our mindset? Are there any little things or any tips? Like if you were to talk to, your son or daughter who's about to maybe start a business and you were going to pass along some advice and you wanted to kind of give them some general principles or guidance to build that resiliency or that toughness or, some of those things. I think we're all tougher than we really think we are. And we have more resiliency than we think we do. We just have these limiting mindsets. So just curious to get a little bit more. I'm sure in your books, you go in a lot more detail, but just curious if you have anything more to add to that.
Yeah, Dave, no, it's an excellent point. I try and tell people all the time, because a lot of people will try and throw that excuse at me. Well, of course you can do that. You're a Navy SEAL. But the things that I teach, they're not SEAL things. I mean, leadership and when I talk about leadership, most people think externally with leadership. They think about how do we lead other people, which I do talk about. But 70% of what I talk about is self-leadership. And self-leadership, structure, discipline, mindset, positive attitude in the face of negativity. Those are the keys that are going to make a difference in the hard times. So your ability to lead yourself, to create structure, discipline, set goals, accomplish those goals, that will carry forward. That creates momentum. Do hard things. I mean, that's the reality. And one of the greatest ways to do hard things is through fitness. I really encourage everyone, you should work out. The reason being is because there are different ways to do hard things. But very rarely do you get into an area, because some people can endure other things. Almost no one can't do some level of fitness that puts you outside of your comfort zone. I mean, if you truly are working out where you're running or you're lifting weights or you're doing whatever, and you're actually doing it right, not I'm on a treadmill, just barely moving, it gets you uncomfortable. And I teach something called the pyramid of change in my book, Overcome, about how you get out of your comfort zone. Most people want to stay in their comfort zone. They'll do the minimum level to get everything done, but they don't push outside of that comfort zone into that zone of discomfort. If you do that on a regular basis, you don't have to do it a lot. Most people try and go from 0 to 100. I just want you to go from 0 to 5. And guess what? If you were sitting at 0, 5 is going to be a little uncomfortable. Not a lot, but a little. But the good news is if you go from 0 to 5, after a little while, 5 becomes your new comfort zone. And then you say, oh, well, now I'm going to go from 5 to 10. Well, now 10 is your new zone of discomfort. But guess what? After a while, 10 becomes your new zone of your new comfort zone. That's how peak performers are always leveling up. They don't do it in giant leaps and bounds. They just constantly push forward a little. So that's how I would encourage it, to constantly do a little bit of hard things. And then there's 3 rules that I talk about. This could get a little more in depth. 3 rules to the overcome mindset. Number 1, don't quit. Although there is a caveat to this. So many people quit before, usually at the hardest point. Usually, it's kind of like from The Alchemist. It's always darkest before the dawn. So typically, usually it's our hardest point that we quit and we don't realize we're close to the end. So this is why I tell everyone, grind forward a little further. Always push just a little further. When you're at your breaking point, tell yourself, I can go for another week, another 2 weeks, whatever it is, and then reevaluate. Number 2, in that don't quitting, I talk about something in the military. When you're in a battle, if you're going up against some fierce resistance, we will fall back. So that's not quitting, but it is stopping the attack for one reason or another. And it gets into the definition of insanity. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, there are so many people that'll do that, and they'll grind themselves away until they're dead, or they're financially, they have no more money, or physically they can't go any longer. That makes no sense. So instead, we need to fall back. We need to relax, take the pressure off for a minute. You need to reassess what's going on. And then you need to decide, am I going to re-engage, or I'm going to re-attack what I'm doing, or do you go in a different direction? And that's not quitting, that's being smart. So this is why the fallback is really important, because I meet a lot of people who think they're hard as woodpecker lips, and they just keep grinding forward, doing the same thing, and like, I won't quit, as their business bleeds away doing the same thing. Don't mentally quit. I watch a lot of people who they have their doubts and they're like, well, I'm going to keep driving forward. But in their mind, they've already quit. They no longer believe in what they're doing, and they're just going through the motions. And we know who these people are. We've met them. I see this frequently in sports teams, usually not on the professional level, although I have seen it on the professional level. I see it a lot. My kids played sports. I saw it in the games where the kids were just getting their asses whooped, and they stopped playing. They were just going through the motions. There was no fire. They were literally trotting. There was no attempt to get the ball. They had mentally quit. And the problem with mentally quitting is it leads to physically quitting. And then the last rule of the overcome mindset is life's not fair. There are so many people who they do everything right. And then when they get punched in the face with a life ambush, they get all upset and they're like, well, that's not fair. I did everything right. Well, good for you. But guess what? The real world doesn't work that way. So suck it up, go get off that X and drive forward. Understand that not everything's always going to go according to plan. As a matter of fact, you could do everything right. You could have the greatest advisors in the world and develop the greatest plan, and something could come along and just wreck it. And that's where you get off the X. So understand that bad things happen to good people and that life is not fair. And if you build your mind around those 3 things, I think that's what helps people move forward.
One just follow-up question, what you said earlier about, physical fitness and exercise, because I do that like a lot of people, and it's very easy to get outside your comfort zone there. When you, let's say, for example, you're going to do burpees, because lately I've been on a burpees kick, which kicks your butt in just a couple minutes, right? So let's say you get to that point where you're kind of feeling that pain. What are some of the things that you would think about to try and, kind of push past that maybe that point where you want to quit, right? Because you're kind of reaching that 5, and right when you get that 5, you want to quit. So what are maybe some of the things? Do you have like mental things that you did in the Navy SEALs or in life that kind of, even with your surgeries or things that kind of gets you to kind of, you hit that point and you want to quit, and how do you mentally respond to that?
I just, I tell myself, just a couple more. And sometimes I recognize, all right, maybe the pace I'm running, I need to slow down just a little, because I'd rather slow down a little and finish than continue grinding and burn out to where then I can't finish. So we have to be smart sometimes. Oftentimes we give into the noise. I watch this a lot. I just finished going out, and I was a guest instructor for the project, and military training is similar to this. The instructors are going to scream and yell at you no matter what. So they may be screaming at you to go faster. You're not going to make it. You're terrible. You're a piece of, worthless dung, whatever it is. And people get in their heads, and And then they say, the reality is just take a breath and keep going. So let's just say you're knocking out, for math purposes, 20 burpees in 30 seconds. Maybe you're really burnt out and you slow that down to 20 burpees in a minute. You're still accomplishing it. It's about movement. It's about life, because you're going to be able to attack it again. So sometimes it's about pacing yourself and ignoring that, the noise that's in the background. Because in my opinion, it's about finishing.
I like that. It reminds me, you're probably out there with Jimmy Rex. Do you remember Jimmy Rex out there, guy from South? I don't know if you were at the last one, but he quit part way into it because his knee was getting wrecked. He didn't want to like fully wreck his knee. That was at the project, Jason. And so by the way, check out the project with, it's probably on Bedros's website, Bedros Keuilian. There's a lot of people like Jason that are involved with that. Very, very cool. This is different than what David Goggins says, right? Like you read, that's motivational, some of Goggins stuff, but where would that be different? Slow down and finish versus like bust up your insides, and then you have to slow down for a long time.
I just put a link to the project. Here's the deal, guys. There's a time and place to push yourself to death or breaking. And Goggins talks about this, but that is a SEAL mindset. And that is a mindset you need on the battlefield. There may come a time in your life where you need to do that, and pushing yourself in those areas, I think, are important. But man, I've watched a lot of dudes break themselves for no reason. I watch young kids trying to get ready for SEAL training that break themselves before they ever show up because of that mindset. And I love Goggins. Goggins is a beast, but I also believe in being smart and how we do things. My personal coach is probably one of the top trainers in the country. He trains, he's been on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. I don't know how many times. He's the go-to trainer for Hollywood. And he told me, he's like, dude, you do realize that most of you guys, SEALs, have overtrained your entire life. Like, you guys just are broken. So he really has scaled me back in my training to build me back up, especially after I've been all shot up and broken and everything else. So pushing outside of your comfort zone doesn't have to be so brutally painful that you hate every second of it. You are getting better by just being a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And that's where that stacking, that's where going from 0 to 5 and 5 to 10 and 10 to 15, that's what makes a difference. Goggin kind of, gives this thing, we should go from 0 to 100 every day. I'll tell you what, Goggins is a genetic freak. He is a genetic freak. Most people cannot run at the level that he does all the time. They would break. And unfortunately, I think he encourages a lot of people to do just that. I think there's probably a lot of broken people out there that have followed his philosophy. Not that it's bad. There's a time and place for it. But in my opinion, life is about the long run. How are we effectively moving up at all times so that we can continue to do well physically, personally, and professionally in all aspects of our lives and not be totally burnt out?
I love the balance, because I did a workout with Goggins. Like, it was a baby workout for him, but I was doing lunges for, it felt like miles, and he was laughing, and I was lunging next to him while, and then pretty soon he was way further ahead, and, and I thought it was great. But then, more recently, I'm like, I love to mountain bike. I want a mountain bike tomorrow. I want a mountain bike the next year. And so I don't want to get hurt. So I love the balance that you're bringing to this. If you guys have some questions, ask away, but I want to go back to the hospital. Go in the hospital, go into, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you did not want certain people coming in saying certain things.
Yeah, I had been in the hospital for about a week, and I won't lie, guys. I mean, here I was, I had finished this really hard journey to earn back my credibility as a leader, and everything was back on track. And then suddenly I'm all shot up and I find myself laying in a hospital bed, and they're talking about amputating my arm. I'm, disfigured. Hang on one second.
Yeah. So guys, I think this is important too, because Dave asked a question like, what do you do for mindset and some of these things. The flip side of that is, what don't you want around you? What influences don't you want? And so that's why I wanted to bring this question to Jason.
Yeah, it's a great point. And so here I had all these overwhelming things. The doctors are telling me they're going to amputate my arm. They're telling me it's going to take years to put me back together. And I was really struggling. I won't lie. In the beginning, I was really struggling with, where do I go from here? Like, I was trying to get the motivation and drive forward. And I had some people that came into the room about this time, and they were expressing a lot of pity over what had happened, and a pity for wounded warriors, and that we would never be the same. We'd never be able to drive forward again. You know, we'd never achieve the American dream. You know, we'd just be these victims. And I think that's really critical. I believe that there is a pandemic in this country, and it's called the victim mindset. It's not called COVID. It's called the victim mindset. The victim mindset's much more dangerous than COVID, in my opinion. And it's the mindset that says, you know, because of whatever happened to you, because you're this race, you're this creed, you're this color, you're this religion, you got all shot up, you know, your business had this happen to it, you're a victim. And we naturally place people into the victim box, and we're doing no favors with that. And that's what happened in that room. And I said, man, that's not me. I am not a victim. I am a victor. I will drive forward. I will get off this X. And here's the greatest gift you have as a human being. You have a choice. You have a choice in how you deal with adversity. I don't care what happens to you. No matter what happens to you, nobody holds a gun to your head and says, you got to lay here and feel sorry for yourself, or you can only do this, or you can only do that. You drive that decision-making. And you drive your ability to get up and drive forward. It is a choice. And it was kind of in that moment that I said, that ain't me. And I wrote out this sign that I put on my hospital door that said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country I deeply love. I will make a full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And I'm going to push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, intense, rapid regrowth. If you're not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it, the management. I don't know why. But it really is a perfect example that you choose. I wasn't going to allow anybody to feel pity for me, and I wasn't going to feel pity for myself. And I agree with Eric. It's a great, in this life, we're inundated with negativity. You have the ability to choose positivity in the face of negativity. And if you got negative people around you, lay down hey, here's the guidelines. You want to be around me? It's about positivity. You ain't going to follow that? Beat it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, guys. Questions, because I got more. Guys, here's the thing. When I get somebody like Marshall Silver and I get Jason Redman cornered, I'm going to ask them question after question after question. So I need to do a session on how to ask great questions or even selfish questions. So like, ask away. I've told you before, I've been in Rolls Royces with really important people, and I'm sitting next to Mr. Important guy. The guy in the front, I don't say anything. The guy in the front of the Rolls, not the driver, the other guy in the front, asks the question and consumes the conversation for the next 30 minutes. And I missed out. You guys don't miss out on asking good questions. So who's got the first one? Or the second one? Go for it, Todd.
Yeah, you know how this just plays right into my life, and especially the way Jason's putting it towards life situations. So, Jason, I really appreciate how you're doing it and taking your message and telling everybody to live to their lives, because I've shared my life story with Eric a little bit, and it just plays right into your message. You're giving everybody, and Eric can see what I posted in chat here, but really appreciate you going around sharing your story the way you are and telling everybody, hey, get off the X, as you're saying. So, don't stay on the X, don't fall back, move forward and do it after you've reset your mind properly. So really appreciate it. My question to you is, being that most of us are franchisees here and we have teams, is how to take this message to our managers or to our team leaders and get them to take it into that team setting, into those stores, into those clinics, et cetera, and expand that message to our broader sets. Like I have 12 different stores. So how do we get it from us and spread that message out?
Hire me to come speak for your company. No, I'm kidding.
I'll have you come. I'll have you come to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we'll have them all come there and have a great meeting.
I love it. You know, at the end of the day, it starts with you. I mean, that's the reality. I think it starts with you as the leader. So that's one side. The other side is what is the mission of your company, and does everybody understand what that mission is? So we'll break those down in the two sides. So number one, it starts with you. So your ability to project positivity in the face of negativity, your ability to lead yourself. I teach 3 rules of leadership. Number one, lead yourself. 70% of leadership is your ability to lead yourself. So how well do you stay positive and motivated? How well do you accomplish the goals that you set out to do? If you told your team, I'm going to do this, these are the things that I'm working on within the company, are you getting those things done? But it even goes further beyond, because as a leader, you don't just lead that company. Everything you say or do impacts who you are as a leader. So believe it or not, they're watching how you lead your family. They're watching how you interact with your friends. They're watching how you work out, how you dress. Everything you do reflects on you as a leader. So leading yourself is so critical. Rule number 2, how do we lead others? So often we think leading others has to do with telling other people what to do. The reality is the majority of leading others started with rule number 1, our ability to lead ourselves. And leading others then gets into, well, how do I provide them the guidance? How do I provide them the motivation? How do I provide them the inspiration? How do I provide them the resources and the training they need to be successful? And then, oh, by the way, trust them to go out and execute it. Nothing kills a team faster, and nothing kills leading others faster than trying to micromanage the shit out of them. It just builds poor culture. So allow them to go out and lead and execute, and then hold them accountable. You know, a lot of times, if you have someone who is not doing it right, oftentimes in teams, you know, you have leaders who, for whatever reason, don't want to hold them accountable. It doesn't mean you have to be a jerk, but pulling that person aside and saying, hey, man, this is how we get things done here. What's going on? What's going on? Why are we not, you know, why is this not happening? And finding that out. And you may find out they have something major going on within their lives. And maybe that's an opportunity for you as a leader to be able to build them up. Rule number 3 is lead always. You can't pick and choose. I made that mistake when I was a young leader, and you're a leader at all times. You're a leader when you're at the bar having a drink. You're a leader when you're in the gym. You're a leader when you send someone a text. You're a leader when you're walking through the office and someone catches you off guard and you just finished a phone call with your spouse and you're angry and you give them a grumpy face because of that angriness. Well, guess what? That reflects on you as a leader. And that's really tough. And those things are going to happen, by owning them and understanding, hey, man, everything I say or do reflects on me as a leader. I think that's one of the most critical things on the leadership side. On the mission side, you know, what is the mission of your company? And have you truly conveyed that on a regular basis down to everyone in your company? Does everybody have ownership of the mission of your company? What are you here to do? You know, my company, I want to help others be better. Like, that's my mission. I want to help people get off the X and be better. And that is our goal. That's our mission. So whatever we're doing, we want to make sure that it's leading back to that. You know, if we have an issue with a customer, you know, have we done everything we can to help them be better? And, you know, some people, we have to understand, you know, the customer isn't always right. I don't necessarily agree with that, because sometimes you have some problem makers. But as long as it falls back into our mission and we emphasize that with our team, and then it comes down to 3 categories as we're addressing our mission. Number 1, when you as the leader are telling people, hey, this is our mission, do you believe it? I mean, a lot of people that state this is their mission, or you see a company mission on a wall and you're like, huh, I don't even think that guy believes in what he's saying when he tells us that. And already that's going to damage credibility. So you may need to rewrite your mission statement. If you're struggling to believe it, you may need to rewrite it. Number two, are you believable? When you deliver it, if Todd, if you were to tell me what, your company does, and said, hey man, this is our mission, would I believe it? Would I say, wow, man, Todd is so passionate about this, man. Like, I want to be on that team. Like, I love that mission, man. And then number three, do you live it? So are you living it day in and day out? And that goes back to leadership, lead yourself, lead others, lead always. Are you living that mission that you've put out? I think those two things make the difference, and that translates down to your staff and people.
All right, you guys got to be fast. If you want to ask a question, have your hand up, ready, Jason, or put it in the chat. My question is, looking back at your time in the SEALs, whether it was a team member or a leader, looking back, who did you have the most respect for and why? The most respect for and why?
Two people that were mentors of mine. Actually, I'll say three, because the one will be really quick. Probably the best SEAL I ever worked with, hands down, was a guy from Montana who did not stay in the SEAL teams. He only did about 8 years, but unequivocally, he was by far the best, most well-rounded SEAL. He wasn't a great big guy. He was probably 5'9", about 175 pounds, 170 pounds, but he was a all-state collegiate wrestler. He was a great fighter. He was the most humble guy. He had lived in the outdoors forever. Just a good, solid dude. He was a great shooter. He thought fast under fire. He was a phenomenal sniper. I mean, probably one of the best SEALs to this day that I've ever met. On the leadership side, it was two people. I write about both of them in my books. The one is Vince Peterson, not his real name, but he was a legend in the SEAL teams. And you talk about a guy who led by example. He was one of the greatest leaders I ever saw. Vince had the ability to lead people by, very rarely did he ever say, Eric, this is what you're going to do. Instead, he would plant seeds. And, Eric, you and I have been talking, you've been saying this is the direction that you think we should be going. I agree with you. I think that's a great direction. How do you think we should get there? And Eric says, well, sir, I've been thinking about it. I think steps A, B, and C would be amazing. And he'd say, yeah, I agree. Steps A, B, and C. Have you thought about this with C? And Eric's like, no, I really like that. I'm going to take that on board. Oh, awesome, Eric. And they would go forth and be super successful. And he would give all the credit to Eric. Eric did this. He brought this plan to me. It's exactly where, it definitely is driving the team in the best direction and all this all along. And it took me years to see. All along, it was exactly where he wanted to go. And just phenomenal. I mean, that type of leader, because it inspired people. Like, I would have followed that dude into hell, doused in gasoline, driving a propane truck, like, hands down, I would have been glad. That was the kind of leader he was. And you have to understand that he lost his leg in a skydiving accident, kind of in the middle of his SEAL career, and the Navy wanted to kick him out. And he managed to stay at a time when they wouldn't allow that, but they basically wrote him off, and he continued to lead. He continued to do everything. He never allowed his injury to stop him. He was in at every PT. He had a run leg. He had a swim leg. He would do the obstacle course. And man, I remember days where you had been gone for weeks and you would get back. You would just be exhausted from training. And you'd be in the platoon hut and a command master chief would bust in and he'd be like, hey, why aren't you guys doing PT? And you'd be like, oh yeah, we got to do PT. Let's go. And you couldn't say no, because you knew the commanding officer was out there running on one leg when we were all able-bodied. The second guy was after I got myself in trouble. When I came back to the team, needless to say, the SEAL teams are pretty tough on mistakes. We don't tolerate mistakes very well. And both a good or a bad thing, really neither here nor there, but lives are on the line. So if a guy isn't holding his weight, the guys can say, I don't want to work with that guy. And unfortunately, that was a situation I got into for a while. And it took a while to build back that trust and credibility with the guys. So not only did I need to build back their confidence in me, I had to build back my confidence in myself after I screwed up. And this leader saw that. And he sat me down right at the beginning after all that happened. I had come back and he said, "Hey, Jay, I don't care what happened in your past. All I care about is the right here and now and the future." He's like, "There are going to be times I want you to step up and lead. There are going to be times I need you to follow me." He's like, "And I want you right there on me and learning from me, but that's how this is going to go. And I'm going to give you opportunities." And he did. Frequently, we would be in complicated training scenarios that it was his job to lead this complicated training scenario. And he could have got all the credit. Like he could have said, "Hey, I'm going to lead this scenario because it's my job and I'm going to look great and it'll make me look great." But he had such wherewithal to say, "Well, I know how to do this. I've been in for a while." So guess what? He would step out and tell the instructors, "I'm going to step out. Red's going to lead this." And it did multiple things. One, it built my confidence back. It showed, "Hey, man, I have the ability to do this." But bigger than that, it showed the guys I had the ability to do the job. And it really accelerated my comeback. If I had had a leader who did not believe in me, it would have been a whole lot harder to do that. So that was a tremendous example of leadership and mentorship.
Guys, you got to be fast. All right, Jason, I'm going to Poland Saturday to go help on the border of the Ukraine and Poland for 2 weeks with refugees over there. I've got thrown into groups with SEALs. They've gone out and Bedros put me in a touch. I think his name's Tim. He's from Texas. He's got an amazing thing that he does. But people that are entrepreneurs or were successful in their military career. And now they're doing things. Is it a giving back thing for people? Why do people go and take out of their own time with their family, their time with their business to go do the things to go serve other parts of the world? Like I'm asking myself that question, and I know why I'm doing it, but like, what do you see? What is it? Because the questions come, and this guys, as I told you, I'll ask personal questions. You guys can ask personal questions. I'm doing it. And I think I've been getting emails and text messages from friends of mine. They're saying, "Eric, I want to do something like that with you. I want to go with you." And so I would imagine that as my influence has grown, there's going to be more people that want to do something like that. So why do people do it? What advice would you have?
I mean, just look at where you can contribute. I mean, there's a lot of groups that are out there that are doing things. Some of it may be monetary funding. You may not have the ability to go over to Poland like Eric is. I contributed with the Afghanistan withdrawal for Task Force Pineapple for about 6 to 8 weeks. I wasn't able to contribute after that. My schedule just started to get tied up. It becomes look for opportunities for areas that you are motivated in. I want to give back to veterans programs. I like kids programs. I do a ton of pro bono. I do a ton of things where I can give back. And that, in my opinion, that fills the top bucket of my Pentagon and Peak performance, and that's spiritual leadership. Your ability to contribute to somebody else that's in a bad way fills you and helps you to be more balanced. Not only that, it gives you perspective in this world. Obviously, my heart goes out to these guys and the guys and gals in Ukraine. I mean, this is a tough situation, man. They're coming after them and people are being killed. So to be able to give back like what you're doing, Eric, I think is awesome. So it's looking beyond yourself and looking at the areas where you can give back and not even realizing, or maybe you do, that it will return back on you, that it will fill your spiritual leadership bucket.
What do you say to somebody that says, "I want to do something like that. I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I'm ready to," or they want to, and maybe they think it goes back to going all out. You don't need to go all out. You can go incremental and start doing stuff. But what would you say to somebody or a group out there that's saying, "I want to eventually do something like that, maybe once a year or once every 10 years. What advice would you have for that person?
Reach out. I mean, everything starts with communication. So, if you identify a group or somebody that's doing something, let's just say, for instance, helping, in Ukraine, Save Our Allies, I think, is one of the groups. Dynamis Group is another group. Just reach out to them, pull them up and send them a message and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I live here in XYZ state. I'd love to know, is there a way I could help beyond just monetary donations, or maybe I can start with that. Is there anything else I could do? I'd love to donate a week of my time. Whatever it is, they usually, most of these groups have someone that can say, hey, absolutely, this is where we could use help.
Tell me one story from your time of donating your time, giving your time in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I mean, there were quite a few stories. I mean, definitely we were trying to move a family out, and we had them right up against the gate. This was right in the very beginning out of Karzai Airport. And it was he was a 24-year-old, and his wife, I think, was 19. And they had a 2-year-old baby girl and a 6-month-old baby boy. And just shepherding them out and listening to their fears as they navigated this crazy, violent Taliban hold on the area, and the issues and problems they came up against as we're literally trying to navigate them through via phone and radio and all these different things. And unfortunately, the bomb went off, right? And I'll tell you what, though, thankfully, we would have had them at that gate when the bomb went off, but his daughter got trampled in a sewage ditch as they were trying to get up to the gate, and they fell back to a place to where they could try and give her some medical aid and recover. And that's when the bomb went off. So it's interesting how the world unfolds, because if that had not happened, they probably would have been dead. So unfortunately, they're still stuck in Afghanistan, and I wish our country had done more.
Jason, seems trivial to say, but thank you for your service.
I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.